All right. Welcome back, Draft Junkies, to a very special edition of the Draft Podcast, part of the Gem City Sports Network, your war room away from the war room, where we scout the athlete, trust the tape, and argue like GMs on 2 hours of sleep. I'm your host for tonight, Paul Adamaszek, and tonight, this is the one we've been building toward. It's the TDP Final Mock Draft Extravaganza, and folks, I have been looking forward to this one for months. We've got a stacked house for tonight's show. I am joined by three of the sharpest draft minds I know, guys who have studied the film, run the numbers, and have probably already sent angry tweets about their team's pick that hasn't even happened yet. Nick Artman, Wayne Bradford, and Isaac Petkac, each bringing their big boards, their biases, and enough spice to keep this mock draft popping. Welcome in, guys. How are we feeling tonight?
Boys, the gang's back together. It's been too long.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling good. I don't know that I've tweeted out my gripes yet. I've definitely put out my sorrowful memes of potential Shedeur Sanders to the Steelers pick, so we'll see if that comes true tonight.
Hey, it's awesome. Playoff hockey, it's playoff basketball, it's the NFL draft, best time of the year.
Wayne, I'm wondering, if you turn your camera around, how many screens are you looking at? Seven or eight?
I'm just looking at this one. I do have my phone. It's intermission, so I'll listen to the wife, and she'll tell me whether someone's scoring or not from the other room. So
we love it, man. Keep us updated.
Do you remember the Dallas Cowboys COVID war room when he was in he had his yacht and he was doing the COVID yacht, and behind him was all these screens and all these windows? That's how I picture the other side of Wayne's camera. It's just straight Jerry Jones style.
Not yet, but maybe one day.
We'll make it happen for you.
Awesome.
We'll make it happen. All right. Well, these guys spend all day ignoring their responsibilities, researching endless mock drafts, and grinding the last bit of tape. And trust me, they're ready to throw hands over their favorite prospects, which is why we're all in our own draft dungeons for the safety of each other and our listeners. Here's the game plan, guys. We're running a live mock draft, picks 2 through 32, snake style. So it's A, B, C, D on the way down, then D, B, C, A. I said that wrong. D, C, B, A coming back up. Each of us gets 7 picks tonight, and when we get to pick 30, we'll have a fun little exercise to determine who makes those last 3 picks. No trades, no future considerations, just pure straight-up selections representing all 32 teams. Here's the order, as determined by ChatGPT. Nick Artman, Wayne Bradford, Paul Adamaszek, hey, that's me, and Isaac Petkac. So it'll be Nick, Wayne, Paul, Isaac, Paul, Wayne, Nick. So before we get started, let's address the obvious. Pick number 1 is off the board. The Tennessee Titans didn't even pretend to play coy until tomorrow night. The selection is Cam Ward, quarterback from the University of Miami and the new face of the franchise in Nashville. We're not here to argue it. We're here to build the rest around it, which means we're on to pick 2. And as I said, Nick Artman has the honors of kicking this thing off tonight, and from there, we'll keep it rolling. So, Nick, you are on the clock for the Cleveland Browns. That has to hurt just hearing out loud.
So, I don't know that I have this one was hard for me. Because in my head, I'm like, should I do what I want them to do or what I think they're going to do? And those are two very different things. So right. I will do what they should do. And Cam Ward's off the clock. There's all kinds of talk about quarterback. I'm not even going to belabor this one. I mean, Browns ownership said it best. If you have a chance to draft a unicorn, you have a chance to draft Shohei Ohtani, you're going to go ahead and you're going to draft Travis Hunter. So I'm not even going to try and mock some drama here. I think it's Travis Hunter, and it's not even close. I think if you're the Browns organization and you have so much dead money in the Deshaun Watson contract, if you can pay 2 players for the price of 1, the Browns are going to slam that deal every time. So I think it's Travis Hunter at 2.
That's fair. It's good for the jersey sales. It kind of depends on whose board you're looking at. Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are 1-2 on everyone, and it's up in the air. Who do you like more? I think you hit the nail on the head. If you can get 2 players for the price of 1 with that number 2 pick, you do it. I like the pick. I would have taken Abdul Carter personally, but Travis Hunter totally makes sense in Cleveland.
You see, it makes a lot of sense, but then you realize the team that's making the pick, and you think to yourself, well, clearly then they're not just going to make that pick, right? I mean, going to go with the least obvious option possible. I just figured I had to interject that. Sorry, Browns fans. We love you all. We really do.
You're not wrong.
It's the only team where you can play both ways, so it's a done deal.
Yeah,
That's fair.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, let's see. So Nick's got number 2. Wayne, you are selecting for the New York Giants at pick number 3. Now, this one on many boards is already chalk. Are you going with what the experts say, or do you have something smarter in mind?
Well, it's the Giants. So the Giants don't draft very well at all, right? So they're never going to do conventional. Right. So I'm going to go off the board, and I'm going to say that the most important thing for the New York Giants right now is the social media barrage they'll get from taking Shedeur Sanders and the marketing and promotion, and they're into selling tickets, not winning. I'm going to go Shedeur Sanders to the Big Apple, and it's prime 2.0. It's the perfect match. There's a lot of pressure on Brian Daboll. He's got to do something to get that offense cranked up, right? He's one and done, in my opinion. He hasn't done anything. He was this guru in Buffalo. But you better get a franchise quarterback, and you also want a marketing machine. Abdul Carter, obviously the number 2 prospect, but they got a great defensive line. They've been really good over there. So, let's address the top need that you have.
Very, very interesting because, I mean, I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be Abdul Carter, and like the Browns haven't even handed Travis Hunter the ceremonial jersey yet, and they've already turned in the card for Carter. So that's real interesting, but I don't disagree in that Shedeur is probably the most pro-ready in terms of like media marketing and just being able to kind of like not let the hype and the spotlight get to him. So interesting, very interesting. But actually that matches what we did on the mock draft 1.0 back on March 11th. So good to see that we were right then.
I don't know that it's right now, but I think it's going to be the pick. I agree. I think all this Shedeur falling stuff is smokescreen. The Giants brass sent everybody to, Senior Bowl workout, or not the Senior Bowl, workout combine. There was reporting of Giants scouts at every Colorado game. I think, yeah, this is a pretty easy pick. I mean, don't get me wrong. They did it for Jackson Dart too, but Jackson Dart's not going here. So
I will say what's interesting though is that with all the hype about Shedeur Sanders potentially dropping, and who knows whether it was created by the Giants or created. I mean, I'm not sure why Dion would create it, given the fact that New York's the biggest market that you can be in. But it does make you wonder. This is the draft we're doing with no trades. But if there was going to be a trade, I feel like 3 would probably be, in my view, the most likely point. And then you ask yourself, okay, well, who's going to trade up? Is it the Raiders, despite having Geno Smith? Does Pittsburgh make the trade from 21 to 3? And if so, what do they have to give up? I do think if you're the Giants and you're smart, you've done your homework on Shedeur. If there is any ounce of belief that he is not the next face of your franchise, you could get a lot for him, because again, the team that trades with you is trading to draft Shedeur Sanders. So, I really think that, if you're in that draft room for the Giants, you really need to give a trade some thought, because you could probably get a lot more than any other team could for a team trading up to 3.
I agree with you. I think there's a high likelihood that they could trade down. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Probably the highest point in the draft that you can possibly trade to is pick number 3. I think the Browns were offered some stuff, and they're going to sit comfortably and take that unicorn. So I'm going to be honest, Wayne. I had the first 4 picks. I have a little sheet that I'm keeping track here. I had the first 4 picks written in pencil, and I did it in pencil because I was like, just in case Nick screws things up here. Yeah, but Abdul Carter on the board at number 4. That was a scenario I was unprepared for. So I will
like to keep it real.
I will tell you who I was going to pick for the New England Patriots at 4. But honestly, if this is the case, I think New England would be silly not to select Carter here, and I think they'd be giddy, because I was thinking offensive tackle, offensive line was their top need. Protect the young quarterback from last season. Their top draft pick in Drake May, who just had an abysmal time behind that traffic cone offensive line that they put together up there. But when you have the number one player on my board still available at pick 4, I think it's a done deal. And I argue with me if you can. But I think Abdul Carter falling all the way to 4, the Patriots fans will be happy to not get their tackle of the future here and select Abdul Carter 4th overall.
Yeah, I like it. I actually think Abdul Carter is probably 2 or 3 picks too low. I mean, again, this is such a pure talent guy. We've seen how Micah Parsons has been able to parse his way into Dallas and play so well. So yeah, I think it's a really good pick, and it'll be interesting to see, for the Patriots, if indeed Carter and Hunter are off the board, do they look to trade, right? Because those two are slam dunk picks. But I think you could get an interesting decision depending on what happens here. All right, I'm going to stop blabbering. I'm going to go to number 5, Jacksonville on the clock.
You've got back to back here. Does that change your mindset at all?
No, it doesn't. It actually, you guys gave me 2 really easy picks. You really did. I would have said defense any day of the week with Jacksonville until Liam Cohen became the head coach. And I think with the way Trevor Lawrence has regressed and the fact that I think we saw a little bit of a resurgence with Brian Thomas Jr. there at the wide receiver spot. I think, for Jacksonville, they're not super far off. And I wanted to go Ashton Genty here, but I still, even if you don't believe in Travis Etienne, I think Tank Bigsby is good enough to be able to get you in a tandem back situation for the Jaguars. So if you're Jacksonville, you're looking offense, and none of the receivers are really good enough to go number 5. So why not take the guy who literally can play any position on the field? And that's Tyler Warren out of Penn State. I love this pick here for Jacksonville. You can pair him with Evan Ingram. You can have 2 guys that seriously, especially in Warren, that can go anywhere on the field. And I think when you look at the way
I think Evan Ingram's gone too, so he might slide in as number 1.
He is gone. Yeah, fair point. That's why you're the expert and I'm just
even
here.
Better.
Even better. Now he can become tight end number 1 for this Jaguar team. And I think more than anything, it gives you multiple options for Trevor Lawrence, who is really in a situation where he needs to succeed, because if he doesn't, he's in a boatload of trouble. So there you go. Tyler Warren at number 5, gents.
I love it. I love it. No argument there. I think your point about Trevor Lawrence being successful at his height when he was at Clemson, what did he have? He had like these 6'4", 6'5" receivers, Justin Ross, and his name is escaping me at the moment, but he had these T. Higgins, 6'5", went to the Bengals. 4 years between those guys, 4,000 yards receiving, and you said it. Brian Thomas last year, a little bit of resurgence. I think that's what he needs. Little too high for Teteroa and McMillan. I agree with you 1,000%. Warren is 6'7". He controls the middle of the field. A nice safety release valve for the quarterback. You love to have that. And you said it, he can play anywhere. Far and away the best tight end in this draft, according to my board. I've got him as my 4th overall player. So you take him at 5th overall. It's a heck of a steal.
Yeah, he can play in the backfield. He can play on the ball. He can play off the ball. He's going to be in the slot. You can match him up out there. Do a lot of things that Kansas City does with Kelsey. So movable parts, you can get him matched up where you want to on a linebacker. I think he'll control the middle of the field.
I like this for Tyler Warren because of, the new coaching staff and who they're bringing in. I think it's really smart for Liam Cohen to have that kind of field stretcher, X-factor player they can put in the slot, put in close. I hate the pick for the Jaguars. I just think they have offensive firepower, but they are weak in the trenches. I would have loved to see them, take Will Campbell or even go on the defensive side, and Mason Graham is sitting there. I love Tyler Warren. Don't get me wrong. We've talked about him on Flagship for 6 months or better now. But I just think that Jaguars have more needs than, trick pony tight end. I mean that in the best way possible. I love Tyler Warren.
Sure.
The Jaguars.
I think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to Isaac's point, you got an offensive-minded coach in there, GM. He needs to set his identity. So I think he'll pick that way.
And the other thing
he was brought in to fix Trevor Lawrence, and he's going to take the best receiver on the board.
And I think the other thing, too, is with a guy like Tyler Warren, you can also put him into block, right? And a great offense helps your defense stay off the field. And I think if they can start using Tank Bigsby more and get ETN back in the run game, it will allow you to have more extended drives, be a little bit more aggressive on that. So I think it's just a good all-around pick. All right, so that brings me to number 6. I get back-to-back here with the Vegas Raiders and their brand new, spanking new head coach in the 70s, Pete Carroll. I went back and forth on this. We know Pete Carroll is a defensive-minded guy, and Mason Graham is sitting there on the board, and it is really, really difficult, it would be in this situation, to not take Mason Graham. He is a slam dunk. He is a perfect interior defensive lineman that could get the Raiders some pass rush that they desperately need. But
I sense a butt coming. There it is.
Geno Smith was not brought in just to be a bridge quarterback. I really think Pete Carroll believes in him. I think they have a decent enough wide receiver core that they can make some noise. What they need in this division is a running back. Yeah. And Ashton Genty is a unicorn at the running back position. We know Marshawn Lynch was big for Pete Carroll in Seattle when they made the Super Bowl runs. To me, Ashton Genty is the pick here. He has too much of an upside. He's too talented. He's got too much of an aggressive downhill power game that Pete Carroll will love, that Marshawn Lynch had, that I think is really going to give the Raiders another level and dimension to their offense. So as much as Mason Graham would be a great pick here, there's too much you can do with Ashton Genty to pass him up. So I like him going to the Raiders at 6.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think Pete Carroll was brought in for a long-term rebuild. I think they're in win-now mode. I think that's why they paid for Geno Smith to come in and be able to play right away. Ashton Genty is a play-right-away, win-now pick. Best running back in the draft by a wide margin in a really good draft for running backs. I like it there. I don't think it's too high for the running back, even in this day and age. I think it's a good fit. I think Tom Brady, the front office, everybody's thrilled bringing in that number 1 back.
And I think Pete Carroll loves to run the ball, right? He's a defensive coach, but he's drafted and had a high-end running back everywhere he's been. So I think it makes 100% sense here for Genty to be here. I think that even going back to the Jacksonville pick, I think all that talk of Jacksonville taking Genty is all smokescreen to try and get someone to trade back. But I think this is a perfect fit for Vegas and for Pete Carroll and what they want to do.
Yeah, defensive coaches, when you can run the football and play action and control the clock, that's your best friend, right? So they're going to be in the I formation. They're going to be in 12 personnel. Geno is a drop back guy, and he needs some help. He's slung it around the last couple of years, but you can see when they're one-dimensional, he turns the ball over too much. So he certainly needs some help. And in that division, you want to keep Kansas City's offense off the ball. The Chargers are built that way. So you're seeing Denver, being built that way. You got some great defenses in that league. So you've got to be able to run the football in the NFL to win.
I love it. Which brings us to pick 7. And of my 2 picks, this is the hardest one I have to make because Mason Graham is still up there. All right, we got a new defensive coach, Aaron Glenn, safety, feisty guy from his career, feisty guy at the Detroit Lions. You can never have too many quality defensive linemen. You can never have too many pass rushers, which brings me to my number 8 player still available, Jalen Walker out of Georgia, the edge, freak of nature, can play off ball, provide some pass rush ability, can play inside, outside, but also the top need on that board for the New York Jets, offensive line. And I don't think we've had an offensive lineman go yet, so I don't know who your flavor is, if you're an Armand Membu guy, if you're a Will Campbell guy, if you want to take Kelvin Banks Jr. this early. I don't know, man. I wrote down 2 names, and I'm still between the defensive end and the offensive lineman.
Well, Paul, we got to close the show sometime, so you got to make a pick.
Well, you get 10 minutes in real time. All right. Calm down. So I said last week that Jalen Walker would go top 10, stamp it, send it in, put some money on it. It's a done deal. But I'm going back on that because I'm the worst gambler in America, and I'm taking my favorite offensive lineman in this draft, and Armand Membu, right tackle from Missouri. Don't know if he can only play the right side or not. Tackle upside, you can probably play him at guard on either side of the line of scrimmage in his first year. But nobody moves like this guy. He was kind of one of the ones I was hoping to fall down into the early teens. He's going to be able to play that wide zone. Just a different mover in space for a guy at his size. Ran sub 5 seconds at over 330 pounds. Not many human beings on earth can do that. And tackles, especially in this class, not a great tackle class, but if there's even a chance that they're a first round, like those fringe first, second guys, they're going to go higher because tackle is a premium position. Edge is also a premium position, but I'm going with Artman Membu to the New York Jets at number 7. Send it in. I'm happy about it. You got to protect Justin Fields. Keep him upright. It's Artman Membu.
I love it. And I mean, look, we've seen in the last 2 years with Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't matter the quarterback that you have. If you can't protect him, you've got no shot. And you play in the division with Buffalo, who's now going to get better in the pass rush. We know New England, if they do go with what we expect them to go with and draft Abdul Carter, they're now a better team. And at some point, we know, Paul, Miami's defense will get better. We know that that's going to happen at some point down the line. That's
not a certainty.
So, so it's a good pick. I think, again, the Jets, Justin Fields saw flashes last year, guys. We saw that. And this could be a guy who could be a franchise quarterback if he has the protection around him.
I like it. And I think, you drafted Olu Fashanu last year out of Penn State. And one of them can play right. I think you could swing even Membu at 6'3". I mean, he's 314, but at 6'3", a little short to be on that left side, when you got Fields out there running around. But I still think this makes sense because you saw that happen a lot. Aaron Rodgers was on his back a ton last year. So I think the more tackles, the more linemen you can get on this Jets offense. And like you were saying earlier, Aaron Glenn is going to bring that level of Detroit Lions football to this team. So, the more big guys you can put in the trenches, I think this is a good pick.
Yeah, and you saw, Philadelphia, how dominant they were on both sides of the line, what wins in the NFL. And I would just tell you this, Justin Fields is going to help that offensive line with his mobility. So if they use Justin Fields' ability, zone read, get on the perimeter, do some things, there were times when Justin Fields, did some great things. Especially I'm the Baltimore Ravens and I'm watching, the Steelers and I'm like, you put Justin Fields in on every third down and run the zone read, we can't stop it. But you refuse to do that and you let Russell Wilson stand back there like a statue and let us go get him. So, I think they're complementary with what you're doing at quarterback and the offensive line.
We love it. We are on to, so Wayne, you're up. Carolina Panthers at pick 8. Prime spot for maybe a trade, but some good players still on the board. The top 2 guys left, let's see, 4 of the top 10, 3 defensive players and an offensive tackle.
Yeah, and you got Dan the Man Morgan, right? So he is going to go get a go-getter, right? So to your point, his card is already in. It's Jalen Walker. He's getting a defensive end edge guy. He can't believe his luck at 8. He's thinking he is the luckiest guy in the world. And there's a new sheriff in town, and I think you'll see those guys go defense and be very aggressive. And I don't think there'll be a happier front office than Carolina.
I'm 1,000% with that.
Yeah, they need something. Paul, I know this is your guy, so I'll let you go.
Oh no, I mean that was the other pick. I was going between Walker and Membu at 7. So if Walker doesn't go 7, it somehow falls to 8. I have him at 8 on my top 50. So I think the fit is perfect. The Panthers need everything, but the top of their list is edge. So a guy who can play off the ball, a guy who can play on the ball, the freakish traits, the 40 time, the vertical jump. What else was good? The broad jump was unbelievable. Bring some pass rush ability, but he's a 3-down player on defense. I think he just walks in. He's your best defensive player in Carolina.
Level of competition that he's played against, at Georgia, level of competition within the Georgia program itself, so those guys are gritty. They know what's expected. They've run a pro program. They're going to work their tails off. They're going to be relentless. They're going to punch the ball out. Kirby Smart, outside of Saban, the best guy out there. So you talk about developed and ready to rock and roll. Carolina's going to be excited.
And keep in mind, too, guys, that Georgia's offense last season was subpar. It really took this defensive unit to get them as far as they did in the playoff. And I think that that's going to show this year. Obviously, we've seen Philadelphia draft Georgia defensive players with great success. I think even more so this year. To Wayne's point, you're going to see the repetitions that Walker has had are, more, in my view, more quality repetitions, even everyone being at the Georgia program, because of the defense that they had to play to keep themselves in games this season.
Agreed. He's going to be a good pick. Carolina Panthers, if they remain pat, they can get a guy like Jalen Walker. I figured they were going to go defensive line anyway. Speaking of defensive line, at pick number 9, Nick, third overall player on the board, Mason Graham, still kind of hanging out. Is he falling?
Are you looking at my notes? What are you doing here? Yeah.
Notes. This is the easiest pick of the draft at this point.
Is it?
Gifting me things. Well, honestly, I could see it a couple different ways. Mason Graham is up there. I'm looking at Graham here. I'm looking at Tet McMillan because I get it. Now, this whole Derek Carr thing that seems to just be a mystery. Nobody really knows what's going on with his shoulder. Does he want in? Does he want out? But I look at the offense. You just have Chris Olave, end of list. I like the idea of Tet McMillan. I don't think Tet McMillan is worth a top 10 pick. On the flip side, if you are going to go ahead and you're going to try and just roll out Spencer Rattler this year, I could see you wanting to get some protection with Will Campbell, but I think seeing Mason Graham fall into their lap, this defense needs some help. I mean, that defensive line is Cameron Jordan and give me one other person who's on their defensive line. You can't. So I think you absolutely have to go Mason Graham in this pick. He is a disruptor. He can play that inside. He's going to take out 2 offensive linemen on almost every play.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, if Abdul Carter was the one guy in the Big Ten this season that you had to game planned around, Mason Graham was 1A. And keep in mind, too, you make the argument what Mason Graham did was maybe even more impressive because he had Kenneth Grant on the other side of him, whereas Abdul Carter had denied Dennis Sutton, and I don't think that those two are as good of a combo as the other two. So it's a heck of a pick for New Orleans. And, I mean, man, you talk about a team that needs just a cornerstone anchor piece. We've seen what Will Anderson's been able to do with the Texans. I think this could be something very similar with New Orleans and having Mason Graham come to the field.
I think the thing about Mason Graham, one of the reasons he's falling is just sort of when you get him, you just look at him. He doesn't look like a top 10 defensive tackle pick. There aren't many guys who go that high because it's interior defensive lineman is not a premium position. So like you look at guys like Quinnen Williams went high, Ndamukong Suh, I'm going back a little bit. He isn't that guy. He isn't the absolute Haloti Ngata, another guy. Yeah, going way back. I went 5th or 6th overall. Graham isn't that guy. What he is, though, he just has this supernatural ability, because I don't know any other way to explain it, to get off blocks late and locate the football. And, this guy's also a sideline-to-sideline defender. He is all hustle. He plays with great leverage. And like I said, just phenomenal hands in that he always knows where the ball is. And he has this thing where, like, he's engaged with an offensive lineman, so he can kind of like fool ball carriers into thinking, okay, he's blocked, I can kind of run in that direction, and then he's able to just get off late, and the ball carrier just kind of crashes into him, and he brings him down to the line of scrimmage. Lots of tackles for loss. He does benefit from having another defensive tackle with 340 pounds or so, but I think Mason Graham falling to 9th, I have him as my 3rd overall player on my board. Falling to 9 for the New Orleans Saints, I think, is an absolute boon.
And he's played for 2 NFL defense coordinators. Yes. And to your point, Paul, he's played 2-gap, which you play in the NFL, right? Because he's played in NFL systems. So being able to line up, head up, and 2-gap, there's not a lot of guys in college that can do that. Most of them are playing a shade technique in 1-gap. But the ability to line up, head up, and be able to play the A-gap or B-gap and shed and direct and get your hat in the right place is very important in the NFL when you're trying to 2-gap as well.
The only knock against him from measurement standpoint is the arms. 32-inch arms, which I know is going to knock him down some boards. But there's been plenty of guys who play well with 32-inch arms that do not have the athletic traits of Mason Graham. So I think he's going to be a phenomenal NFL player. With that, we are on to pick 10.
This one's another easy one for me. I think that, Chicago is more likely to draft Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren in that new look offense to be able to come in and play with Ben Johnson, I think Tyler Warren would thrive. Unfortunately, I can't do that because IP always just is out to get me.
I am to please, man.
So instead, I'm going to continue that rebuilding of the offensive line. The Bears have gone out and, went and got Joe Thuney, went and got Jonah Jackson to fill out those guard spots. They have Darnell Wright on the right-hand side, and I think what you want to do to kind of protect and build this defense again, trying to bring that Lions physicality to Chicago, I think they're going to go ahead and they're going to pick up Will Campbell here in a second. The guy's
Yeah,
the guy's 6'6", 319. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be a mauler for that offense.
Think about if Ben Johnson is able to even have 70% of the success on offense with Chicago than he had with Detroit. You look at the weapons on this team, right? And we talked about them last year, right? Whether, bringing in Keenan Allen, of course, drafting Roma Dunze. You've got DJ Moore on the outside. Oh, by the way, Cole Kmet might be a top 5, top 7 tight end in football. Like, if Will Campbell is the pick here and they go offensive line and their line can even be 30% better, it's a scary offense, man. It is a scary offense, and now they have the guy to do it.
I think they would have loved
that pick. They've been. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I think they would have loved a running back here too if Genty would fall. A lot of people think Ben Johnson and Genty would be a great pick here too. Obviously that's not there. Build up the defense or build up the offensive line and try and make some room back there for DeAndre Swift.
Keep your number 1 overall pick from last year upright. I think that was the focus of the offseason. They went out and got 2 starting caliber guards. Go use your top pick on an offensive tackle. They're going to lose Tevin Jenkins. 3 new quality starters, a new offensive coordinator. Things are looking up in Chicago. So with that, I believe we're 10 picks in, fellas. Let's give a quick recap. Cam Ward went first. Travis Hunter went to the Browns. Shadur Sanders comes off the board to the Giants 3rd overall. Abdul Carter falls 4th to the Patriots. Tyler Warren is the new weapon in the Jacksonville Jaguars at pick 5. Ashton Genty off the board, number 6 to the Las Vegas Raiders. Armin Membu going 7th to the New York Jets, the first offensive lineman off the board. Jalen Walker falls to the Panthers. The New Orleans Saints pick up Mason Graham at number 9, and Will Campbell, another offensive lineman. 2 offensive linemen rounding out our top 10. That moves us to number 11, I believe. Wayne, we are on to you. The San Francisco 49ers had a lot of injuries last year. They have some contract disputes with some stars coming up this season. They lost a couple defensive players. The 49ers are in shambles, Wayne. They need your help.
Well, we're going to go UGA one more time. We're going to go Michael Williams. We're going to get an edge.
Okay.
We're going to get an edge rusher. The NFL, you've got to be able to rush the passer. Bosa needs a teammate out there. So we're going to rebuild up front. And we're going to get after it. We're going to be aggressive up the field, vertical. So we like his versatility, his length, 6'5". We're going for Michael Williams, Georgia.
When in doubt, draft a Georgia defensive player. I don't hate it.
It's been wild to get to see how many of those have come off the board. And we've seen too, like their defensive players can be 3 or 4 deep. I mean, you could legitimately draft 3 to 4 first round Georgia defensive players every single year. I think the Niners are just a year or 2 away. I just don't think they're that far off either.
I disagree with that. Not just because it's UIP. I just think I look at that roster and I think they're in trouble. I mean, I trust their leadership to be able to turn it around, but this is a great pick to put up opposite side Nick Bosa, but you lose Javon Hargrave. You got holes in that defensive line. I don't know who's playing cornerback for them at this point. So, I could have seen them going cornerback here as well. But if you get a chance, to Wayne's point, if you get a chance to draft a top edge, and he's a lot of people's second edge after Abdul Carter in this draft, then, you got to do it because you got to try and turn the ship around sooner or later.
If you can rush 4 and get home, you can win a Super Bowl against an 18-0 Tom Brady team. So go to the New York Giants and, rush 4 with a great defensive line and impact. And we'll go back to this year, a total dismantling of Kansas City on the edge against a center who was moved to tackle. Mahomes had no chance, so you can take all that drop back quarterback, throw it vertically down the field. You can't do that on your ass, that's
Simply
the way to go.
I love it, man. I love it.
Unless you're Kyle Buller, there's a throwback for you. Oh, and you're a Ravens. You're a Ravens fan. Kyle Bowler, when all those pre-draft tapes of him sitting on his knees at the 50-yard line, throwing it through the field goal. Yeah. He's about the only one that could have done it.
Kyle Bowler. There's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
There you go. I'm here for you, buddy.
Oh,
now,
man.
Paul, before we get to the next pick here, we're not doing any trades, but because it's you than me, I want to make you the offer. Would you like to switch picks so you can pick for your Dolphins?
Oh, I love it. We should do it.
I appreciate that, because I was just about to say trying to read Jerry Jones's mind is just a scary exercise. Something I don't want to get into.
Don't you worry.
Oh, this is an easy pick.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, this is it's a very easy pick, and it's a pick none of you are going to expect at all.
And I hope you don't take my guy. Please don't take my guy.
One of the things I guarantee you I'm not taking your guy. Trust me. One of the things that the Dallas Cowboys have been is unpredictable, except for Wayne Bradford, who's been able to predict quite literally everything that's happened to the offseason. So maybe Wayne can make this pick. I don't think Dak Prescott is as bad as people think that he is. And again, when you have a great receiver in CD Lamb, this offense is always going to be good. But I think what we've seen with the Cowboys is they're kind of in limbo. They're in no man's land. They're not really sure what to do. This could be a tradable pick. But I'll tell you what, guys, Dallas is a team to me that screams an off the board pick. It screams a pick that no one's going to be expecting. And I think what they can do is they can take a page out of the book of Mr. Dan Campbell from just a few hours, at least via flight in Detroit. And what we saw is he go a couple years ago with a guy that no one expected in the first round of the draft at a position that no one likes to draft in the first round anymore. And it worked out great for them. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to look to Bill Belichick land, the guy he has not coached, and they're going to draft Amarian Hampton, the running back from North Carolina.
Oh.
This guy, I mean, as you know, we saw Paul, in the combine and pro days, has had a tremendous upheaval in the last couple of weeks and couple of months with his speed, with his tenacity, with his talent. And I just find it hard to believe that Jerry Jones thinks that this Cowboys team is washed. I think he believes his defense, when healthy, is still good enough to make noise. And in a year where you need a running back because they just don't have an option back there, I think Amarian Hampton can come in as a rookie and make some noise. And quite frankly, it solves the issue with any potential salary cap concerns if when you're looking to pay guys on the defensive end. So off the board, but Amarian Hampton, I'm going to go the running back out of North Carolina, number 12 overall of the Cowboys.
I love the pick. I think it's a great pick. I don't know if Jerry's disciplined enough to do it. That's the problem. But it would be the best fit for them. He's Ezekiel Elliott 2.0. When Zeke wasn't 312 pounds. Early in his career. But I think that the Derrick Henry trade to Baltimore has reignited the running back position in the NFL. So there, and to your point, the tailbacks at Detroit, and now you're seeing more and more quarterbacks who aren't prepared to be starters early and need some help in the backfield. So, Mel Kiper wants to outlaw cover 2, just hand the ball off in 12 personnel. Everything is okay. And that's the way football should be.
I don't hate it. We had Omarion Hampton going 6th overall, actually, in the first TDP mock.
Wow.
And I've talked at length about Hampton. In any other draft class that Genty's not in, Hampton's your number 1 guy. This is an absolute stud at running back in an otherwise loaded running back class. So I don't hate it at all. You're absolutely right. He was not my guy who I was going to take at 13. But I did have running back as the second highest need for the Cowboys. So I'm with Wayne 1,000%. I'll double stamp that. That's a good pick. It's a win now pick, which means it's a Cowboys pick. I love it, man. I didn't think it was crazy at all.
All right.
Hang on. The only reason I wouldn't have done it is because it's such a running back heavy depth. I feel like I'm being a contrarian to Isaac, and I'm really not trying to.
That's okay. It's all good.
Because it's such a running back heavy draft, I think they could still get value at the running back position later. And if you go back and you look at our draft board, and both Tet McMillan and Matthew Golden are still there. I think It is CeeDee Lamb and then nothing else. I think you have Javonte Williams now there in the background. Miles Sanders can still do some things, so I think you can pick up a running back later. and I would see them nabbing Tet McMillan. So I mean, I love Hampton. Again, it's not a knock on Hampton. I just think given what they can do and the depth of the running back, I think they would wait. Now, that being said, it's more likely that Jerry Jones makes a move just like this.
Yeah. Historically, though, I think you're right. A couple of years ago, the last, I want to say 16, 17, the last Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey, there were 2 backs taken in the top 15 picks, 20 picks, and then we saw nothing until after pick 85. So those deep running back drafts, I agree. There's going to be a ton of them drafted. I think probably 15 or so. And because teams are going to have those options, that I could also see them sliding and kind of knocking down the Judkins, the Hendersons, the RJ Harveys, kind of knocking that value down a bit. So I can see both sides of this. Nick, I think you're right. Isaac, I think the fit is right. It's just going to be interesting.
What's interesting is I just gave you the guy that you wanted for the Dolphins there, Paul.
You did. And actually, so I am down to 2 guys who not even Chris Greer could screw up, and they're both available, which tells me that he's going to take neither of them. But if they wanted to do this right, if you watch the Dolphins for more than 5 offensive snaps, and I've watched them for 25 years, if you watch more than 5 straight offensive snaps, your immediate takeaway is, wow, that offensive line is horrible. Okay, so naturally, we've got a couple offensive line here. I've got first-round grades on a few guys left. Defensive line is pretty empty. We had a couple of guys leave. Safety, we have no starters. If they trade the corner down there, his name escapes me at the moment. Jalen Ramsey. If they trade him before pick 13, we have 0 starting corners. I like Jahdae Barron. He's my 9th overall player on the board, but I think it would be a genuine disservice to Tua Tagovailoa to not get him an offensive lineman after seeing the only good offensive lineman they have retire 2 weeks ago in Teron Armstead. So I am absolutely thrilled. I don't think he'll be here tomorrow night, but I'm absolutely thrilled that Kelvin Banks Jr. from the University of Texas is still available. Tackle potential. I think he takes the Laramie Tunzel route. I think you shift him inside to guard in year 1. I think you see how Patrick Paul, your 2nd-round pick from last year, plays at left tackle. And if he gets hurt or he can't do it, you have Kelvin Banks slide him right out to left tackle, nice and easy. He can play either guard spots. I think he's a Pro Bowler at either guard spot. He works well in the wide zone system. When you have an offensive line that can actually utilize that speed in the backfield, I think we've had some productive backs. And I think they've been productive despite the offensive line and the absolutely abysmal play that we've seen there since my childhood. So I think Kelvin Banks is the pick here, but I'd love to hear you guys tell me why I'm wrong.
No, I think it's a good pick. I actually am stunned, to be quite honest with you, that you didn't go with the other guy from Texas and Jahdae Brown, who I think is the best available right now on the draft board. You can make the argument, especially
he is the best available on my board. But like I said, I think it would be a genuine disservice to not take offensive line.
It's a good pick. I mean, Tua needs to stay alive. I seriously, yes. I mean that in all sincerity, he needs to stay alive.
It's not hard.
But Banks isn't going to protect him when he's scrambling 10 yards down the field and not sliding. So I will preface that
if Tua is scrambling, we're already dead. It's already over.
I think it's fine. I think it's a bit of a reach. I agree. I think Jahdae Barron is who I would have taken there. Even with Jalen Ramsey, there's still a hole in that secondary on the opposite side. So I think it fills a need, and it gives you then the flexibility to trade Jalen Ramsey later if you want to.
Yeah.
I do think that they have two. I do think they have 2 great running backs, and you know, Paul, I think they have to utilize those more to help Tua. You know, so again,
same thing that we just said about Dallas. You've got all these other things, but if you can get your quarterback a run game, it just makes such a difference.
Absolutely.
So does that give me the 14th pick then, Paul? We'll
yeah, what?
14 and 15. Okay.
Yes.
I do not like making this pick at all. I have no idea what the Colts are going to do.
I'll take the Colts pick. I'll take the Colts pick if you want.
Okay. Well, at that point, we're going to get so out of order.
Go for it.
All right. So I'm just going to go with who I think the best available for position and need is. And since we've already drafted a bunch of Georgia guys, I'll take Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia. I just think a really fundamentally sound player, somebody who I think, again, can really defend well against what will likely be a resurgent Trevor Lawrence and the newly minted Cam Ward. CJ Stroud's bound to have a bounce back year. I just think Indianapolis needs someone to guard the back end because they were atrocious in pass defense last year. So I'll just go with the best guy available on the board of that safety position, Malachi Starks.
Wayne, you're shaking your head. Why?
I would have taken Colston Loveland, tight end.
I thought about that. I thought about it.
Again, 12 personnel league. That would have been my pick. Offense there.
I think Starks is great. I mean, he's a great safety. They fill a need there in Indy. I agree. I like so many picks here. I think Loveland would be a perfect pick for that offense. I think that you could have made a case for Walter Nolan and Tet McMillan here as well. There's not much offensive firepower there. So, I think Indy loves this spot if it were to fall like this because they could have the pick of many different directions.
Let me just say this quickly before we move on. And this is my bold prediction. If Shedeur Sanders is still on the board at this pick, 14 is where Pittsburgh will trade up to get him. Because it won't take much, and Indianapolis has plenty of players to choose from at 21.
I think that's fair. I don't know what they would give him to move up that far, but,
Yeah.
I think they could still get Colston Loveland at 21. I think they'd be very happy with that.
Yeah. So just food for thought. So,
no, I agree.
Okay, Paul, you look at you get another great pick of the Falcons.
I know. And so I wrote down a lot of names in pencil before this just to kind of put myself in the frame of reference here. Atlanta Falcons needs I have listed in order: edge, defensive line, interior defensive line, corner, offensive line, and safety. Well, we just saw the best safety come off the board. Plenty of edges still available. Defensive lineman, this is super deep interior defensive line class. I think we can get one later. Then I look at offensive line. The top three are off the board. I don't know if I want to reach for a Josh Simmons or a Josh Connerly or one of those guards this high. And then I go back to the board. And I said, well, edge is probably my greatest need. And that is a premier position. There's a couple of guys I'd love to take here, and I think the Atlanta Falcons would be smitten with. But if I'm looking at the top 50, and you guys just made fun of me not 5 minutes ago for leaving Jahdae Barron on the board at 13, and he's still there at 15. He is my 9th overall player. I can name one player in the Falcons secondary, and I'm good at this, A.J. Terrell. So I'm thinking Jahdae Barron at 15 is an absolute steal. We can get an edge later. We can get an interior defensive lineman later, but we can't get Jahdae Barron in the second round. So I'm taking the Atlantic Falcons to take the corner out of Texas. I've drafted 2 Texas players in a row here: Kelvin Banks and now Jahdae Barron.
I love it. I think it's a great pick. I think you're right at this particular point. Best guy on the board, and I think if he falls this far, the Falcons are very happy.
I know we haven't picked anyone from Ohio State yet, but I think what we're sensing in the trend in this draft is if you just took the 4 teams from the college football playoff semifinals and you had a draft, and you could probably still get enough people out to be able to make
pretty much
to make something.
I think they take a hard look at Tet McMillan here if it falls this way, but you got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. You have a decent offense.
I was going to say they have Tet McMillan. His name's Drake London, and he plays harder than Tet McMillan does.
Well, no, and I agree, but I think Tet is like a second wide receiver, not as a number one.
Yes, I agree.
But their defense has been what's holding them back, especially in that division. So I think this is a smart move.
That moves us up to number 16, the Arizona Cardinals.
I believe that's me, right?
That's Mr. Bradford.
All righty.
Yeah.
Well, on cue, Isaac Petkac, Ohio State. All right. We're going to go with big, nasty Josh Simmons at offensive tackle. All right. Again, we've got to protect, Kyler Murray. Same thing. So Simmons, big, physical, athletic, pro system on offense, and we'll bring some attitude and some nastiness to that Cardinal offense. So I'm going to go Josh Simmons here.
I lost my screen.
I like it. Maybe the most talented tackle in this class. The ACL scares you, and I think that's why he's going to move down boards. In 3 years, we may look back and go, yeah, Josh Simmons was the best player. Why did he go? Why was he the 4th offensive tackle taken? But I think it's the ACL, and he has some things to clean up. Led the Big Ten in holding penalties, not this past season, obviously, but 2 years ago. So definitely some hand placement issues there. But the feet are good. The hips are good. The frame is fantastic. He can fill out. He can put on 15, 20 pounds. And he's just a natural, easy mover. Good, flexible ankles, can get all the cleats in the ground for pass blocking. I think is a great pick for the Cardinals, who are exactly what you said, looking to protect their franchise quarterback.
Got to keep Kyler upright. Got to build up that offense. Jonathan Gannon's a defensive-minded head coach. You got Walter Nolan there. You still got Jahad Campbell. There's a lot of good defensive players there. Will Johnson as well. But I think this is, again, you're protecting for the future.
So let's give Nick 2 picks then.
Yeah, Nick's got back-to-back here.
I don't like this at all. I would hate to be drafting at this position. Especially if I'm the Bengals. The Bengals go out and they spend a ton of money on 2 players, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And I think that's great that, they re-signed Zach Moss recently. So the offense is looking fine. Gesicki is there at tight end. So I think they're going to move to the defensive side of the ball. The rumor mill is out there with Trey Hendrickson on moving him. I don't think that makes sense for Cincinnati, since they are trying to put so much into a win now when you're paying both Chase and Higgins. So I see them continuing to build out that defensive side of the ball. And I think they're going to look at Walter Nolan here, and I think they're going to pull the trigger. I think you look at Walter Nolan, he is just a massive guy in the middle of that defense to be able to go through and take up pass blockers and really give Hendrickson just more room to move. So I think they're going with the 6'4", 296 defensive tackle out of Ole Miss.
I love it. Nolan's going to fall down boards because of the off the field stuff, but the on the field stuff is incredible. So I think if the personality checks out on the back end, you like him in your locker room, you think he can fit into your culture. I think on the field, you're getting maybe just a guy who's Mason Graham-esque. I think they're 1A, 1B. And like I said, it's the character issue that's going to knock Walter Nolan all the way down to pick 17. I love the pick. I thought the Bengals were going to be an easy pick, man. Just who's the best defensive player available? Take that guy.
Yeah. Campbell was up there for me too, but I just think they need to, again, it's the AFC North. Wayne knows this. You just got to play the trenches. Win the trenches. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'll speed this up. So let's go over to Seattle, and I think you guys left me a gift for Seattle. They trade away DK Metcalf. They do go sign Cooper Kupp, but Kupp's more of a slot guy at this point in his career. I think to go on the opposite side of JSN and to give Sam Darnold some more weapons, I think they're gonna take Tet McMillan to kind of help them rebuild that offense.
It's interesting. It's interesting because as defensive of a mind as McDonald is, I feel like the majority of these recent draft picks from Seattle have been on offense, which I think goes to show that they're smart. They get it. And look, the division's up for grabs, right? The Niners are in contract issues, as we know. The Cardinals are still probably a couple of years away. The Rams might be your greatest competition. So why not? I mean, go get a weapon and see what happens. I like the pick.
I think they might go O-line, because they got to store that O-line up. You got Kenneth Walker, who can be a premier back, and they've really struggled. I think they probably played more combinations at offensive line, than anybody. And then, with the amount of secondary guys still available, I could see him pulling the trigger on a corner of safety as well. He's going to build it, the way that they built it in Baltimore, and run the football. Baltimore's always like there's not enough weapons on the perimeter now for Lamar, but I like the pick. I'm a Seahawks fan. That's my other favorite team. I could see him going for an O lineman or maybe taking one of these corner safeties that are still on the board as well.
I took a look
Yeah,
at
I was
Will
thinking
Johnson.
Zabel or Booker, one of the first interior offensive linemen to come off the board. I don't hate the Tip McMillan pick, and I like your reasoning behind it. I mean, this is a points league. You need guys who can score points for you. I think Tip McMillan, the knock on him is that he kind of doesn't play real hard. He's kind of his own guy in practice. When he's not pushed, he can kind of become his own person. That said, a guy who didn't try still went for 1,300 yards this past season. So if that's your not trying level, I think he's an absolute superstar if you can get him in the right system and find ways to motivate him. He is to me like one of the biggest boom bust guys in this draft.
Well, he's going to the right place then, because McMillan, McDonald's not going to take any of that. He's got a culture. He's a young guy. If you're not going to play hard, you're not going to make it around there. So he's either going to have a great career or he's not going to be there very long.
Or fizzle out quickly.
Yeah.
And JSN and Cup are both interior type, slot type receivers. So you get Tet McMillan, who's 6'5".
You need a perimeter guy. You need a boundary guy. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you probably have the two hardest working guys there to mentor that guy, right?
Sure.
So those guys are going to mentor, JSN, Cup. Those guys are going to play hard. They're going to do everything right. So, he has two great mentors in front of him.
I love that. That's a nice 1, 2, 3. Wayne, you have Tampa Bay.
Yes, Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers. All right. And I love their head coach. I think he does a great job. I'm excited that he got a second opportunity.
I agree.
We have not drafted an Alabama guy. So sitting right there on my screen is Jahad Campbell at linebacker.
Yeah.
So,
That's a great pick.
Tampa Bay is licking their chops saying, hey, hell yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. I'm going Jahad Campbell. Been in a pro system, can two gap again, played in the 3-4, played in the 4-3, multiple, going to be very well coached, going to be able to, play against the run, play against the pass, rush the passer, do all those things. So, I think that Todd Bowles will be very, very excited to get Jahad Campbell.
I think so too. Top need on the board is linebacker. You said it, the top guy remaining on my board was Jahad Campbell, my 11th best player. You've got him there at 19. He fills your top need. Not to put you down, Wayne, but that was maybe the easiest pick we've had all night.
Well, got to do something right?
And the 4-5.
It's not a very complicated game. Block the guy in front of you, tackle the guy with the ball.
That's it.
This coming from the defensive coach. And he ran a 4.52, so not only can he rush the ball, but he's a field stretcher. The off-ball linebacker is coming back, just like the running back. So I think this is a great fit for them.
It's amazing seeing linebackers and defensive linemen run 4.5 and 4.4 40s to me. I don't get it.
Guys that big shouldn't move that fast.
Exactly.
All right, where are we at?
Paul, you at 20.
We are at pick 20.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, this is not the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm glad it didn't work out so that I would get all the Pittsburgh fans mad at me.
Wait a minute. Didn't Paul just have two? And then I went?
No, it's Paul. It's Paul that I'm at.
Oh, I'm thinking Nick. I'm sorry, Nick. Yeah, Nick had two. Now I'm sorry. Go, Paul. My fault.
All right, no problem at all. This whole thing's off the rails, so we're doing fine. My penciled in guys. I had 3 guys written here. 2 are gone. The third is still sitting there, but I don't love it. Sean Payton is a guy who can he never takes running backs, receivers, tight ends that high. He can kind of make something out of nothing. He can pull 4, 5, 6, 7th round picks and just get him into a system. This is what I need you to do. He finds the traits with guys who can do it and just do that. Top need on the board, running back. I'm not taking one of those running backs here at 20. The Hampton's already gone. I would have considered Hampton. He's gone. Next need, wide receiver. Are you a golden guy? I'm not really. And again, I don't think Peyton is going to be either. Next need is cornerback. And if we go back to the board, highest rated corner still sitting there, 12th overall on my board, is Will Campbell out of Michigan. Now he's falling. Some injury history, questions about the speed, didn't run the 40. There were people who said he ran 4.58 at the very secret pro day, whatever it was. I'm not sure if I love the top speed. But again, you turn on the tape and you go back and just watch Will Johnson. Sometimes you just overthink it. At this point of the draft season, it's crazy season. He can't do this. Can this guy do this? If we're going back in history, 4, 5, 8 guys. No. Listen, Will Campbell was coming into this year and not 6 weeks ago, the far and away number one corner on everybody's draft. And to think, if I would have told you in January that you could get Will Campbell 20th overall, you would have called me crazy. So I appreciate being called crazy. And I think Sean Payton is happy to pair Will Campbell with Pat Surtain, and they have a little bit of a no-fly zone down there in the Mile High Stadium.
I love it. And you're going to need both Johnson and Surtain in that division too. I mean,
yes,
it's a pass heavy division. I mean, I know you got Pete Carroll heading there now, but yeah, I think this is a great pick.
I think they had the most takeaways, right, or the most sacks in the NFL last year, one of the two, and as well as the young quarterback Bo Nix played. It was really a defense that carried him. Yes, if you can have two guys on the edge that can cover one-on-one in the NFL, again,
exactly.
You don't have to double guys. You can leave them out there. It frees you up to do a lot of
you can rush
things.
4 and cover one-on-one. Holy
Yep.
mackerel, can you do a lot with those other 5 guys to confuse quarterbacks and make things really, really difficult for offensive coordinators.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Folks, we are 20 picks in. Let's recap 11 through 20 real quick. At number 11, the 49ers ended up with Mykel Williams to pair with Joey Bosa. The Dallas Cowboys went Omarion Hampton to get some flashback in Dallas. The Miami Dolphins did the smartest thing they've done in 25 years to take Kelvin Banks out of Texas. The Indianapolis Colts took Malachi Starks to shore up that secondary. The Atlanta Falcons were thrilled to draft Jahdae Barron all the way down at 15. The Arizona Cardinals are protecting their franchise quarterback with Josh Simmons, the tackle out of Ohio State. The Cincinnati Bengals doing the right thing, picking up a defensive player, Walter Nolan, to play in the interior defensive line. Seattle Seahawks take Ted McMillan to add a 6'5" boundary receiver to that offense. Jahad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They love that. And Will Campbell, not Will Campbell, Will Johnson. Why did I write down Will Campbell? Will Johnson goes 20th overall to the Broncos. Wow, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, like, man, the guy that's not even getting picked going to make a big impact here. Maybe we should all enter the NFL draft.
You've been looking at too many names here, Paul.
I really have, and there's too many Wills. That's the problem. It's Will something.
You've got such a great Rolodex that it's hard to remember. I understand. I get it.
I appreciate you guys. We're on to 21, and maybe the most consequential pick in NFL draft history.
Let's go, gentlemen. I can't believe I get this pick. Oh, this is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be great.
Come on, man, do it. Pull the trigger.
Oh boy.
Pull the trigger on the quarterback.
Do I really need to overthink this? Well,
pull the trigger on the quarterback.
Well, and for once, Coach Bradford, I'm gonna listen to you. Give me Jackson Dart, baby. Jackson Dart at number 21 of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is happening. At this point, you need a quarterback. How many times have we talked on this show about the pieces on defense are there? The pieces on offense, now with DK Metcalf, you having to pair with George Pickens. They have not been able to figure out the quarterback position since Mike Tomlin lost Ben Roethlisberger, and you have to try to do something. So whether or not Aaron Rodgers comes and he plays for a year, or you have Mason Rudolph start for a year, or heck, Jackson Dart starts game number 1, I don't care. But you, at this point, you are firing the rounds in the chamber until one hits. And even though he may not be this unbelievable prospect and probably would be a second or third round pick any other year, I don't care. They need a quarterback. And you need to win in a division which quarterback play dominates. Jackson Dart, let's ride.
Let's not. This is a terrible pick. Listen, if the Steelers would take him in the second round, I think it's a great pick. I think Dart is getting overhyped based off of position. I think, if I'm looking at Dart or Mason Rudolph, I'd rather have Mason Rudolph because you have a guy that has some experience. They're not that different of a quarterback. Rudolph's got the arm to sling it to DK and Pickens on the outside. And I think I like Mario Hampton here. There's so many guys that I love here. A lot of them are gone. But the only reason I wouldn't have made this pick, other than the fact that it's a crazy pick, is I would have gone defensive line if I was the Steelers here. Kenneth Grant sitting right there to fill some space. You got Cam Hayward on that defensive line and end of list. Keanu Benton is fine. Don't get me wrong. Get out of my mention, Steelers fans. But Isaiah Loudermilk is the other defensive end. I just think there's a bigger need to fill, and I think this is a huge reach for Jackson Dart, which is 100% why the Steelers are going to do this tomorrow night.
Okay, now here's the reasoning. Now everyone's going to come at me and they're going to say, well, Isaac, why not just wait till next year? There's a great quarterback class next season. Pittsburgh's going to win a minimum 9 games.
Yeah, they don't.
It's just obvious. You're never going to have a top 10 pick. So, with that being the truth, you're either going to have to trade a bunch of first-round picks in the future to be able to get a top-tier quarterback, whether it's Arch Manning or whoever the heck it is, or you take the risk with Dart. If it doesn't work out, so be it. You're on your way to Tankland anyway. Just try it, see if it sticks. And look, this guy's got a strong arm. It's a totally ridiculous overreaction that Mason Rudolph is a better quarterback than Jackson Dart. That's unbelievable to me, and I can't believe that you would even consider that. But again, no player at this point on the board for me is a better option than the risk reward you get with Jackson. And I'd be transparent with you. If Shadour's still on the board here, Pittsburgh's going to take him at 21.
Yeah,
I think they are going quarterback, and they're willing to take a risk on Jackson at number 21. You can at me later. I'm sure it'll be a bust, but you know what? It's worth the risk. All right, I'm going to move on before I get pelted. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to say, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying Mason Rudolph is a good quarterback. Just wanted to throw that out there. Paul, I do want to ask you this, though, just because I know we've had a lot of quarterback talk on the Steelers, and I know we're way over time here, and we're only at pick 21. But if you're Pittsburgh, and I do think they need a quarterback, you two have gone long back and forth between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson all last season. So looking ahead, if you're Pittsburgh and you're dead set on quarterback here, Paul, are you going Jackson Dart or are you going Jalen Milroe?
Woof. I'm not taking Milroe in the first round.
Okay.
He can't throw right now. He is.
Neither could Fields.
Right. That's why I'm not taking him in the first round. I was right about Fields too. I'm
just stirring the pot, fellas. Just
I'm kind of with Nick. I would have gone defensive with this pick, but also you're not wrong, Isaac. They need a quarterback. What's the quarterback room? Mason Rudolph. Where did he play last year? Oh, the Tennessee Titans. Oh, where are they picking? Well, they're taking number 1. And the other quarterback is Skylar Thompson. I can tell you he's the worst quarterback who's ever played in the NFL. Like it's not close.
Browns
so
fans
quarterback room
is Thompson Robinson, but okay.
Yuck. It's yuck. I'm taking defense and I'm holding out for a second round pick. I don't know. I'm not a Jackson Dart guy. I was curious to see what Wayne had on Jackson Dart.
I think Jackson Dart will be the biggest upside surprise in the draft.
Telling you.
Oh, okay.
Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, watching that guy in that system. I think the kid's cocky. He's got great confidence, which you have to be a quarterback. He's mobile. He can win. He's beaten Alabama. He's beaten everybody on his schedule. He's played in tight games, pressure games. I love the pick. I think the kid will come in and he'll embrace the challenge. Nothing's going to bother him. And to Isaac's point, you're so long in the tooth in Pittsburgh. I might have taken Travion Henderson at running back because you lose Najee Harris, but you've got to be able, to be able to throw the football sometimes. And I love the pick. I think Jackson Dart is going to surprise a lot of people.
Okay. Wayne, I'm loving the train you're on, man. So you know what? On that note, let's just go right into pick 22 because I'm just going to keep on the Wayne train here, and I'm going to take the guy that Wayne wanted me to pick with the team earlier in the draft. The Chargers are taking Colston Loveland, 22nd overall from Michigan. We don't have to go down the tube to know Jim Harbaugh and his love for big guys and big attacking guys. And now with Najee Harris in LA, it's a guy who can block. This is a guy who can catch passes. People forget he was the lone receiving target for Michigan last year. Nobody else could catch a pass. That's a great dual threat tight end. I think he's going to work great in LA, and it's a slam dunk pick. They're going to get him at 22.
Go ahead,
love
Wayne.
it.
I know you love him.
Yeah. I love it. You know what I mean? I can't believe he fell this far. I'm shocked. And, they're getting a great one.
I mean, I think this is, Harbaugh's chance to pick him twice. He loved him the first time. He's going to bring him in again. He can get inside and block too, and they're going to want to run the ball with Najee hard. And I think having that 3-down tight end, I think fits Harbaugh really well.
Yeah, it's a great fit for both. I mean, he couldn't go to a better place to play in a system. He knows the terminology. Bang, bang.
We're going to go 4 for 4 here because I had their top 2 needs as tight end and wide receiver, and Loveland is kind of a cross between the two. So I think that fits well. I think Herbert loves it. I think the coach loves it. And I think Chargers fans will love it.
And to your point, Paul, in terms of receiver, I'm not going to reveal who my other choice was for the Chargers, but I think it's going to be the same guy you're about to pick at 23 with Green Bay.
Oh, well, see, I'm between 2 guys here. The Packers' top 2 needs are corner and wide receiver. I really like the cornerback options I have here at 23. Corner is one of those premier positions. So we're looking at a position that you can overdraft them a little bit because of the athletic traits if they're a difference maker. That said, if anybody who watched that last Packers game, they were playing season ticket holders at wide receiver. So that is an absolute hole on that offense. And I wrote down a name, and that guy's still on the board, but I look back to that top 50, and there's a name still available that I did not have, or I did not believe was going to be available at 23. So that said, I'm going to take the top offensive player left on the board, and I must have an affinity for the University of Texas tonight. Mark Brooks loves me tonight because I'm going Matthew Golden as Jordan Love's Tyreek Hill. Okay, the guy just moves differently, and I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill. Tyreek's in a league of his own, but he's about the closest thing to Tyreek Hill. Hands catcher, fantastic feed along the sideline, and just explosive. I was worried about the top end speed. Came in at 4.39. Done. I'm good. He is my number 1 receiver. I have him ranked over top Ted McMillan. I cannot believe he's still here at 23, but I think Jordan Love, I think Packers fans, they don't take receivers in the first round. So this is why I'm probably wrong right now, but this is why we do this, because we're trying to fix the teams. And I think Matthew Golden fits well in Green Bay.
Good pick.
Yeah, no fight here. I mean, I think it's smart. Christian Watson is not working out. You know, just got to get.
I was a Watson fan, man. Just can't stay healthy.
Nope, exactly. Love it.
All right, that brings us to what? Wayne at 24?
Wayne at 24.
Oh, love it. My man. All right, here we go. Brian Williams, licking his chops. Siobhan Revel, 6'3" corner, runs a 4.4 flat. We are putting 7 dudes on the line of scrimmage and playing zero-man coverage, baby! Get the ball out now!
Listen,
The way that Wayne just explained zero coverage is the same way that Siobhan Revel probably yelled and screamed at the club on Saturday nights after his games at East Carolina.
This is how you know Wayne is a defensive coordinator, because the most excitement I've seen out of him all night was for the cornerback that we took at pick 24.
There you go, right?
Listen, we know Brian Flores loves this pick.
Yeah, I said Brian Williams. I meant Brian Flores. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Brian Flores. Yes. We're putting 7 on the line of scrimmage, playing cover 0. Isaac was at the Meadville game, the District 10 championship. Wayne Bradford has emulated Brian Flores and put 7 guys on the line of scrimmage and played cover 0.
Yeah.
Meadville did not complete a pass in the second half.
It was the greatest thing. I'm sitting in the booth calling it, and I'm thinking to myself, Wayne does not care. It is cold, it is snowy, and he is going straight at these guys. And to your point, it worked. So, hey, Siobhan Revel might be a great addition to the Vikings secondary. I can tell you that much.
Another guy coming in with some injury questions. If he comes back from that ACL, gets back to top form, this is going to be one of the best press corners to come out in a couple of years.
And guys, ACLs don't bother people anymore. It's concussions, right? You know, when I coached ACLs, you were scared to death. But with technology and surgery, now you get a concussion or 2, your career's over. 3, you're out. But an ACL, really, you know, with modern medicine, I don't think that is what it was 10, 20 years ago. To me, you know, it's a concussion, it's a torn labrum, you know, it's an upper body there. But ACLs with modern medicine, in rehab and what they have access to now, I think aren't as in focus in terms of, being a problem.
I mean, you've taken 2 ACL guys with your last 3 picks, Josh Simmons and Savon Ravel. So, like, obviously, it doesn't bother you, and I'm good with it.
Doesn't bother me.
All right,
we love it.
This one is
Let's
tough.
see. That was Wayne. Yeah, so we got the Houston Texans, who have an offensive line culture need.
I think they just need. Can we please put somebody on the offensive line? And I think there's not many left here that I love in the first round in terms of offensive line. I mean, I'm looking at Egbuka here. You don't know what's going to happen with Tank Dell's injury and how that comes back, but you went and signed or traded. I don't remember if they signed or traded for Christian Kirk. So you have to pair with Nico Collins. So your offense is fine, but gosh, you have got to find a way to keep CJ Stroud upright. So I think for me, I'm going to go Gray Zabel here. Small conference, North Dakota State, can play outside, inside, can give them some flexibility. I think this is a smart move for Houston. It may not win them a lot of favors in the fan draft room, but I think it's a you're drafting for need at this point.
6'6", I mean, he's going to be big, physical, nasty, the most dominant team, the last 10, 15 years in FCS. They're bullies. They're 2-back. They're power. They're multiple tight ends. They're pro style. They've got linemen in the NFL winning, being great players. A great pick.
I'm going to get on my Gray Zabel soapbox here. I'm a big Senior Bowl guy. I love watching that game. I love watching the practices going into the game. Gray Zabel from North Dakota State was the practice player of the week at the Senior Bowl, as voted on by the coaches. That's not a fan vote. That's not the players he's playing with. Those are the coaches, the NFL coaches, taking a look, getting their hands on those college guys. He came down from North Dakota State, and he said, I will take on anybody that you put in front of me. And if you look at the defensive line class, I mean, Walter Nolan was there, Shamar Stewart was there. They had some dudes at the Senior Bowl practice, and Zabel absolutely stonewalled every single one of them. He had the best week of anybody there. I'm a little surprised he comes off the board before Tyler Booker, but that also doesn't surprise me. It's one of those, they're 1A, 1B. He's got some tackle ability. He is probably a guard in the NFL, but he came in and said, hey, he played tackle his entire career. He said, I'll play guard. That's probably what the length stacks up to. He even came in and said, yeah, I can snap the ball. He snapped the ball a couple times in practice, showed that he could do that as well. So this is a versatile player. This is a guy who's hard-nosed. I'll take on anybody. I don't care who you're from, where you're from, who you play, whatever. Line up and let's play football. Gray Zabel's a great pick.
And I think to your point that's the type of offense that like DeMeco Ryans wants. He wants those maulers. He wants to play physical. All right. The next one is not as much about fit or about need, but more about giving McVay some more toys to play with. And I'm going with wide receiver out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. I think the reason Egbuka has fallen so far in our draft and the reason he's fallen so far in a lot of drafts is because we've been talking about this guy for 3 years. He's not a new name. He didn't break out. He wasn't a Heisman winner, but he does everything right. He's a good all-around receiver. You lost Cooper Kupp. Devontae Adams is not the future of this team. That's great they went out and got him. I love Puka Nacua to watch him play, but I think when you draft a guy like Egbuka, that's a plug-and-play type of receiver for Sean McVay. And Stafford doesn't have many years left, so if they're looking to still try and win, this is a great win now for that offense.
I think it's great for Stafford because, like you said, Stafford is a win-now mode, and Egbuka comes in, and you give Stafford a guy who can trust right out of the gate. High productive player. We talk about all the players who've played at Ohio State at the wide receiver position in history. You can come up with some dudes. And Egbuka has the best stats all time out of all of them. Now, he was there longer than all of them, and I get that. That plays into it. But a solid guy, you said it. He does all the little things. He's going to go out and block. He's going to take the, and route combinations. Sometimes you're the mouse, and sometimes you're the cheese. And he does both of them with the same level of urgency. He's just a pro's pro. I think he's going to step in wherever he goes and be a productive player for 15 years in the league. I like that he goes to the Rams because, like you said, he doesn't have to come in and be wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. He's got a good cadre of players out there, and he can contribute right away.
If you watch the Ohio State tape from this last year, he fits so well with the Rams, to your point, Paul, because Jeremiah Smith was the guy who got all the acrobatic catches and was the main target. But when Will Howard faced pressure and he felt under duress, he went to Emeka Egbuka more than he did any other receiver, more than Jeremiah Smith. So you want to talk about a great safety blanket and a guy who just is going to catch the ball whenever you need to throw him the ball. It's a perfect fit with the Rams. And I mean, again,
he's going to be that motion guy in McVay's offense and run to the flat and do all those things, to your point, where he's the hot receiver, right? When pressure, he can win at the line of scrimmage and catch an under route and go 80, so absolutely.
I love it, man.
When you get your team.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
hey, you a Ravens fan?
I think I was excited about Shannon Ravel. Well, hey, man, we get Kyle Hamilton's brother now, Nick Emenwari. 6'3", 227, 438. We got the 2 best safeties in the league for the next 10 years. We are good to go. Rock and roll. As much as I'd love to take an edge rusher, I think if you take Emenwari, you put him with Hamilton, wow, man, you've got 2 guys that can be multiple, that can play nickel, come off the edge, play strong safety, big, tall, lean guys that can do lots of different things. I love it.
Do we need to come up with some combine numbers for this guy? Because Emenwari, the winner of the combine weekend, absolute freak of nature, 6'3", 220 pounds. What do you run? 4.38. He had a 10-yard split of under 1.5. That's insane. A vertical of over 40 inches. He jumped 43. His broad jump was 11.6. And oh, by the way, he did 20 reps on the bench press. I mean, size, speed, experience. He played at South Carolina. He is a downhill kind of player, a guy who caught a couple of interceptions. I believe he had 2 pick sixes last year, so a guy who can turn defense into offense. And I really think they didn't even play him in the right spot last year. Like, they could have asked him to do more things that were a little more of his skill set. So I think you're really just scratching the surface with Emenwari. And yeah, just the physical upside is so high. You pair him with Kyle Hamilton. I don't disagree. That's the best safety tandem in the NFL. I can't think of one that's even close.
Okay, to my earlier point, this might be a good time for the Steelers to tank. So, Nick, if you think Jackson Dart's a bad quarterback, then we really need to take him, because I don't know who the hell is scoring on this Baltimore defense. If that's I have no idea.
That's why I said I hate it, but not because I hate the pick. I hate it because it's the Ravens. I mean, this is a Raven style player. I like Shamar Stewart here too. Like you said, Wayne, about having an edge rusher, but I think, man, in a pass heavy league, and they've shown they can get through the AFC North. Now you got to get through the likes of Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes, so you need to shore up that defensive backfield, and I think this definitely checks that box.
So that brings us to Paul in Detroit at 28.
Yeah, so if we go back to last season, the Lions absolutely dominant both sides of the ball. They kind of fell off when what happened? Hutch went down, bunch of guys on the defensive side of the ball went down. If I'm looking at the Lions' needs, I see edge, offensive line, safety, interior defensive line, and wide receiver. Offensive line, I think I got some options here. But if I look back at the board, Nick kind of, stole me on this one. I see Shamar Stewart still sitting out there. Mike Green is out there, small school guy from Marshall. Love the upside. But a guy named Trayvon Walker went first overall not that long ago to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he is nearly identical, both in profile, the combine numbers, and production to a Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Led the country in almosts last year. Played on a good defensive line. Scorton's going to get drafted. Another defensive tackle down there is going to get drafted. But Stewart, only a 1.5 sacks last season. But you see the motor. You see the athletic traits. What he comes in with is he's a tremendous edge setter. He's a run-stopping player. And you see the upside with the pass rush potential. And I think at pick 28, you get a day one starter. You get a guy that you can throw out there opposite of Hutch and know that he can set that hard edge in the run game. and you've got that pass rush upside. Walker had 5 sacks in year 1. He's had 20 and a half since then. I think Stewart is the exact same player, and you don't have to take him at number 1 overall and have that pressure of being the number 1 overall pick. I think if you took Trayvon Walker 28th overall, you would be absolutely thrilled, and I think that's what the Lions do with Shamar Stewart at 28.
I thought you were going to go Booker here. You know, just you talked about
considered
him earlier.
it.
Yeah, you talked about him earlier when we were talking about Zabel, and I think he would be a good fit here too. But I agree. I think when you look at the need of somebody like Booker over what you could have in somebody like Stewart, this makes sense to me.
It was BPA in need, man. He just fit both boxes.
Yeah. So that puts me at Washington number 29, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The last scheduled pick of our mock, by the way.
So I was looking at the board, and I'm looking at Washington's needs, and probably edge is one of their biggest needs. You could argue guard, running back, but there's really nothing that excites me. And I'm looking through the draft board. I'm like, man, a lot of great players have already gone. Then I scrolled, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the hell has this player not been drafted yet? And if you're going to take Shamar Stewart, Paul, Washington's going to give you a hug, say thank you, and say thank you for not taking what I believe outside of like an Abdul Carter should be 2 or 3 on the best edge rushers in the draft, and that's James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee.
Oh,
how has nobody taken this dude yet? 6'5", 220 pounds. Last year, he led the SEC in sacks. 2 years ago, I should say, led the SEC in sacks. He really didn't have an amazing year last year. I think part of it, he was I think, dealing with something a little bit early in the season. This guy, though, is a freak of nature, and he's going to put on 20 pounds, and he's going to be one of those guys that you can duel as interior on the exterior. And I also think you can give him an opportunity to play like a TJ Watt style role too, where you can kind of go wherever you want on the edge of the line. This guy is going to be a force of nature for this Washington team who's getting better on defense. And I looked at this and I'm like, I'm stunned that no one has picked him yet. So they're going to get a steal, in my view, with James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee at 29.
I love
and that. Who did Dan Quinn coach at Dallas and move all over the place and make a great player?
Micah Parsons. Yes, sir.
There you go.
There was
character issue for Pierce, but other than that, just like Walter Nolan, turn on the tape, you don't see any flaws.
No, there was something I was trying to look it up real quick while we were talking. I think it was, it must have been the Iowa game. I think that's what I googled very quickly. No, it wasn't that. I don't remember what game it was, but I like Tennessee. Tennessee is one of my teams I like to watch. And James Pierce Jr., not only is he an edge rusher and can get in and can get those sacks, he's a big guy pushing people around. But there's this. Go watch the clip. Google James Pierce Jr. interception return for a touchdown. He's like in the flat, like an off-ball linebacker, just snags this thing like a tight end and runs it back in for a touchdown. So the guy can move as well. I think this is yeah, I agree. This is a huge pick for Washington to help bolster that defense.
I think Isaac touched on it earlier. Outside of Abdul Carter, I think James Pierce may have the highest pass rush upside in this draft, and it's a character issue, which is going to drop him. That's the major red flag. And the other thing is Tennessee's defensive line rotation was ridiculous. They went like 9 guys deep. They play 1-2 snaps and then they're out. So the production numbers are kind of misleading because he is only playing 275 snaps as opposed to some of these guys you see with over 400 snaps. So you kind of got to move the numbers a little bit. But yeah, I mean, just from a third down perspective, 3rd and long, and you just bring James Pierce Jr. in as a pass rush specialist, I think you have a year 1 stud. If you can grow into that full-time 3-down role, you have an absolute great pick at 29 overall. Again, it's really the character issue. The problems don't show up on film.
All right, I know we're doing something fun for these last 3 picks. We got Buffalo, We got Buffalo on the clock right now, and then Kansas City. So what are we putting in as the trade where Kansas City jumps Buffalo here to draft somebody that Buffalo needs?
The inevitable.
I'm just
okay.
kidding. But Paul, you got
something
special plan for this, right?
I do. So I want to thank Wayne for this. He said, "Come up with something creative, and we'll just have these last 3 picks." So I was like, "Should we do some draft trivia?" No, because I'm going to know the answers to the questions. I was trying to come up with something. Maybe we do like a fan poll or something. But I was kind of like, I don't know if we're going to be able to collect, responses rapid rate real quick. So I was like, let's take the 30,000 foot view here. when we go into a draft, what's the ultimate goal at the end of the NFL season?
Not draft Jackson Dart.
Well,
win the Super Bowl.
I deserve
Wayne.
A compensatory pick from what Nick has given me tonight.
Wayne hit the nail on the head, man. He said the goal is to win the Super Bowl. So for these last couple of picks, I figured I would go out and get us a Super Bowl.
Nice.
And I just put our names inside this bowl.
I love it.
We're all represented. And I'm just going to pull out one here. And this person is going to get pick number 30. And this is the Bills, so this is a big one. We're all represented exactly one time. So the first one is Isaac. You're going to get.
Oh, look at that!
And the Steelers.
I need waste no time. Kenneth Grant from Michigan. You're a Buffalo Bill. This is a no-brainer. Again, Buffalo's defensive line with Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa on the outside started the year really, really, really well. But I look at the way that they kind of collapsed at the end of the season and what happened. They couldn't get any interior defensive line pressure with respect to Ed Oliver. Again, what I have been saying my entire time that I've ever covered the Buffalo Bills, and we've said this on podcast, Nick can attest and Wayne can attest, is that the one thing that they have to be able to do to get to the Super Bowl is besides exercise their demons, is they have to be able to get to Patrick Mahomes with 4. That is a must. And I think Kenneth Grant can help you do that. I think it frees up some other guys on the outside. And if you can play bully ball with what's starting to become a weakening Chiefs offensive line, that's going to be the key. So I think Buffalo looks at this and says, okay, Kenneth Grant had almost as much production as Mason Graham. To me, this is a no-brainer if he's still on the board and they take the interior D-line who will help shore up their front 4.
Nope, makes perfect sense to me. It's
another guy, freakish size, sideline to sideline ability. Plays a little high sometimes, which is why he's going to fall this far. But again, just some technical stuff. You get him lower to the ground, get him going in the right direction. Kenneth Grant, you can't buy bodies that size, but athletes that size don't come around too often. For him to fall to 30 is a real boon for Buffalo. Personally, I hate the pick because I'm going to have Kelvin Banks go up against him twice a year.
Selfish.
Rookie for rookie, you're a fun dude. I'll tell you what.
he's going to fit well against next to Ed Oliver too. Oliver very similar to Mason.
And then you got Ogunjubu, who's out for 6 games, but can mentor him. Coming in. So you got a veteran there that can at least coach him up. And in the NFL, they got all day with you. They're not going to allow you to play high, right?
Yeah. Right.
You're going to play low, or you're not going to be there very long.
That's it. All right, guys, another Super Bowl pick here. Let's see. Picking number 31 for the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be Wayne.
All right. Okay. Keeping a theme, baby. 6'5", 310 pounds, 4'9", interior defensive lineman, Derek Harmon, Oregon. You know what I mean? Got our teeth kicked in by Philadelphia. Got to get bigger, got to get stronger, got to be able to take away the tush push if it's still out there available or not. Who knows?
For now,
I love it.
For now, it is. I think it's.
Did you see the article on Mike Leach?
No.
I love Leach. I missed it.
Mike Leach's proposal, or what he was going to do, was.
Oh, I did see
on the goal line, get the shortest guy he could and throw him over the line of scrimmage. That was his version of the tush push. So that's coming next year. You're going to get the cheetah, and they're going to put him in the backfield, and they're going to throw the cheetah over the line in Miami for a touchdown.
I love it. We need something.
I'm just waiting until they invent these springy cleats that just allow you to take off in the air like a rocket ship. Just propel yourself over the top of the end zone.
I think Harmon is a big boost here. I think it makes sense for Kansas City. I think there's a guy that they should have taken over that, but I like that you didn't because now I get to take him here. And I think with
wait a minute. There's two names you had here, Nick. There's no guarantee.
I thought I was the last one because everybody else got in the Super Bowl.
Well, I put my name in there too.
Yeah, the host gets to put his name.
I thought you were doing the host nice thing and taking yourself out, but okay, that's fine.
Why would you think I did
the nice thing?
No,
Super Bowl, not to be nice, Nick.
Should have known you better. That's okay. We're taking.
I'm going to shake this up real good, Nick, and I hope I pick out your name.
Listen, we've been co-hosts long enough. We're taking the same person here anyway.
Are we? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know who I'd take.
Well, there's only one person you should take, so
Yeah.
I'm interested now.
Nick, come up with that 32nd overall pick.
Every year you look at a guy and you go, how does Howie Roseman get to draft this guy? And I think Derek Harmon would have been that for this pick. I think you give him another defensive lineman to pair on that defense, but I think what really is a bigger need for Philly this year, and it's not going to get the same amount of headlines as past years because of just the nature of the position, is Tyler Booker. If they want to run this tush push, if they want to keep Saquon healthy, you got to build back up that offensive line. They lost Mekhi Becton, who was kind of a pickup for them that was a tackle and moved into guard, but he played phenomenally well. And, we talk about how the change in the NFL, we talk about how running backs have come back, off-ball linebackers are come back. Well, guards were usually left for like day 3 picks, but now you see teams like Philly who have kind of brought back the guard position, and I think they're really excited to see Tyler Booker there at 32. The fans are going to go, really, a guard in the first round? But when he's paving the way for Saquon next year, they're going to go, okay, I see it now.
But you're the city of brotherly love. They love that. You know what I mean? Their guy's Kelsey. I mean, he's their guy. He was the center. So that their world, they understand that now. You know what I mean? They won a Super Bowl because of what they had up front on both sides.
Yep.
I'm curious, Paul, who would you have taken?
Well, I was going to say that I'm looking at the players that I have left in my top 32 on the board. 2 of them were offensive linemen, Booker and Donovan Jackson. I've still got Josh Connerly up there from Oregon, the tackle. I've got Mike Green from Marshall, the edge. He's actually my 15th ranked player sitting out there. And I've got Maxwell Harrison, the Kentucky cornerback, fastest man at the combine this year, still sitting available in my top 32. But I love Booker here for everything that you guys just said. And my favorite thing about Booker, now not the athlete that most of these other offensive linemen are, that any of these guys are in the first round. The testing numbers were, let's say, not great. I'm not going to say abysmal on air, but we'll say not great. But the thing I liked about Booker, and it came from Nick Saban, personality-wise, person-wise, who is he as a human being? He said he is in the top 1% of the top 1% of kids he's ever coached. So you have a guy coming into your locker room looking to be a leader, a locker room not in need of leaders, and you get one of the best human beings in the draft. You get him at the end of the first round. I would have had a hard time not taking Booker here. So I'm glad I drew Nick's name because I think he made the right pick. The only thing I see unrealistic about this whole thing is Howie Roseman would have traded around 17 times, still got back to that 32nd pick and have like an extra 3rd and 2/5 that he could use as well.
You're not wrong. Here it is, boys.
Is that the final one?
Wow.
We made it. We didn't hit our hour-and-a-half mark, but we made it.
I would say at a tight hour 38.
That's a win. Under 2 hours was a win, let's be honest.
That's true.
Guys, how fun is this time of year?
I love this. This is hope season, baby.
Unless you're a Browns fan.
Unless you draft Jackson.
Unless you're a Dallas fan.
That's fair. That's fair. Tonight is my best night. Not only for this podcast, hanging out with you guys, talking draft. Long time spent on every draft class, only for Chris Greer to ruin it tomorrow. So tonight I'm in a really good mood, and I'm really glad you guys agreed to do this with me. Thank you so much.
Hey man, you're awesome. You've been an amazing host here on Gem City, and the draft podcast will forever live on. It's being brought back. You don't know it yet, but it's being brought back. As soon as this draft's over, we got to get ready for 26. Because who's drafted Arch Manning? That's the question I want to know.
Big one.
Because
big
they're
one.
Be starting Jackson
The New Orleans Saints.
Yes, I think New Orleans. I agree. They're going to go with Spencer Rattler this year just to get Arch next year.
There you go.
Awesome.
His grandfather will let him play.
We think.
Well, Peyton and Cooper? No, Peyton and I can't even think of his brother's name.
Eli.
Eli. They're going to buy the Saints franchise next year. The Manning family is going to become the owners of the Saints, and then Art's going to be the franchise quarterback. You know, it's going to be the greatest story in football.
Who needs baptism?
That's awesome. I would love that. The headlines that would come out of that.
Love it.
Awesome. Anybody else got anything for the good of the cause?
2-1 Caps with a minute left. My wife has been screaming for the last 10 minutes. You know, I don't know which, you know, so I got it. It's 2-1 with a minute to go. So hopefully we can throw an empty netter in there.
I love it, man.
To come back against the Cavs too. 194, 6 minutes left in the fourth.
Ooh. My wife's worried. Wayne, as we go off the air, it just went final. So your Caps are up 2-0 in the series.
Everybody's happy.
I don't know if we'll get past Carolina. So, but we.
I hope you don't.
On a level of Sharon Ravel or the Caps winning, what are you more excited about?
I'm more excited about the Caps winning.
All right, I'm just
hey, my wife and I last year we did this. We went to had like a small high school reunion on a Saturday in Hagerstown. Drove to Hagerstown, went to a reunion, got up Sunday, drove into Baltimore, went to the Oriole game Sunday afternoon, drove to DC, and went to the Caps Rangers Stanley Cup game that night. Did a twofer. You know, got some bucket list things, you know, trying to do now. But if the Caps keep playing, I may try to make a trip down to DC to go watch them.
Caps it is. We'll do a live show with you.
Sounds good. And we should do this podcast next year, you know, on the rooftop in Pittsburgh somewhere, because the draft's going to be there. So we should.
Don't you worry.
Petkac and Artman would get on getting an Airbnb next Wednesday. You know,
wait, I've got a room booked. I'm ready to go.
Do you really?
We'll be. Yes, I'm ready to go.
The only thing that I request, Paul, is that we all have TDP hats next year in 26.
Oh, you know it. You know it. We got to get a little more Rebitch investment into the TDP, but
I can take care of that for you.
Listen, we heard it. You all heard it live.
I know a screen printing shop that'll help us out.
We can help out for sure.
All right, guys.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much, Paul. Great meeting you.
Yes, you too, Wayne. Hey, thank you guys all so much. That is a wrap on the Final Mock Draft Extravaganza here on the Draft Podcast. 32 picks, 4 draft nerds, and about a dozen takes we'll probably all regret by tomorrow night. I'll post the Final Mock Draft and the final TDP Top 50 big board right after the episode. So whether you loved our fits, hated our reaches, or are already firing off angry tweets about Isaac's Pittsburgh pick, hey, that's what makes draft season beautiful. Real fireworks coming tomorrow night. 2025 NFL Draft kicks off live from Green Bay at 8 p.m. on ESPN, ABC, and NFL Network. And I'll turn it over to you folks who had the best draft night tonight, who reached, who sniped your guy, and which prospect are you planting your flag on before Roger Goodell butchers his name at the podium. Hit me up on X at RufusP88. I want to hear your boards, your bets, and your bold calls before the clock starts ticking. And if you've been riding with us this whole draft season, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It's been a blast breaking down tape, debating traits, and talking ball with this community of football degenerates. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, and drop a 5-star review to keep this thing humming along. I'm Paul Adamaszek. I'll catch you Monday morning on Flagship City Sports Talk, 9 a.m. on 105.9 FM and TalkErie.com for a full draft recap, overreactions you don't want to miss, and plenty more. Until then, trust the tape and happy drafting. Have a great night. Thanks for joining.